Stop waiting. Start becoming. Welcome to Becoming with Beck, the podcast for those ready to shift their mindset, lead themselves, and manifest intentionally. If you know you're meant for more, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to Becoming with Beck. I'm your host, Beck Robinson. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're talking about a topic that gets thrown around a lot, but rarely explored in depth. And that's manifestation. But not the extinct version. Not the vision boards and perfectly lit journaling photos, which, don't get me wrong, these can be great tools. My New Year's Eve ritual every year is creating a vision board for the year that I'm entering into. I also create a vision board on Pinterest that I add to throughout the year. They are great to help you become focused on what you are looking to call in and to stay focused if you can look at it every day. But vision boards alone and saying affirmations alone are not enough. I want to talk to you about the truth. Because manifestation isn't magic. It isn't just affirmations like saying, "Please, universe, I would really love $1 million right now." It isn't hoping hard enough that these aspirations will just appear when you want them to. Manifestation is alignment, it's identity, and it's action. And sometimes alignment costs you something. I know that because I had to choose between who I was and who I was becoming. I think manifestation has been watered down. It's been turned into something passive. Like if you just think positively enough, life will rearrange itself around you. I'm sorry, but that isn't how it works. I have seen examples of this in manifestation groups on Facebook where a post will read, "I need to manifest X amount of money ASAP." And yes, your mindset matters, your energy matters, but what matters more is who you believe you are. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And if deep down you think, "Oh, I'm not worthy of that promotion," or "I'll never find my soulmate," no amount of positive thinking will change that, because your reality is reflecting your belief, not your wish list. And that's uncomfortable to hear, because it means if something hasn't shifted yet, it's not about wanting it more. It's about your identity. People love to say, energy flows where your attention goes. And yes, that's true. But I think we misunderstand what that actually means, because attention isn't just what you say you want. It's about what you mentally rehearse every day. If you say you want success, but you're constantly focusing on why it probably won't work, your energy is flowing toward doubt. If you say you want love, but your attention lives in fear of being hurt, your energy is flowing toward protection, not connection. If you say you want growth, but you keep replaying your limitation, that's where your energy is going. Energy flows where your attention goes, but attention is deeper than vision boards and affirmation. It's what you dwell on. It's the story you repeat. It's the identity you reinforce. If your attention is constantly on what you lack, you reinforce lack. If your attention is constantly on who you're becoming, you reinforce growth. Now, we can't talk about manifestation without mentioning the law of attraction. It's the idea that like attracts like, that your thoughts and your energy shape what you experience. And I do believe there is truth to that, but not in the way it's often presented. The law of attraction isn't about sitting back and thinking positive thoughts until life changes. It's about alignment between your beliefs, your identity, and your behavior. If you believe you're capable, you take different risks. If you believe you're worthy, you tolerate different treatment. If you believe you're growing, you make different decisions. And those decisions change your life. When I was studying a bridging course at university, I wasn't just manifesting university by hoping for it. My intention was on growth. My belief was, I can do this, and my actions followed that belief. That's the law of attraction in motion. The law of attraction doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you consistently are. And I didn't fully understand that at the time, but I lived it. Let me take you back. So there was a time in my life where I had to make a decision. I was in a relationship where going to university wasn't supported. The expectation was simple: to get a normal job, to earn money, and settle into stability. This person was also against me living out of home on my own, which is something I really wanted to do because I believed that I would grow and learn so much as a person. And there is nothing wrong with that path, but it wasn't mine. I wanted purpose. I wanted independence. I wanted a career, and I wanted financial stability. I didn't want to just get by, to settle for a job that did not bring me joy. I wanted to build something meaningful. I remember being deeply conflicted about having to choose between these two things. I'd spent a whole year with this person who I saw my life with, but I'd also spent a year studying a bridging course to get me into my social work degree that I'd been working so hard to obtain. I genuinely didn't know what the right decision was. I reached out to a friend because I needed clarity. I remember him saying to me so clearly, "Bex, you got to go with your heart. You'd been working so hard at university to achieve this dream of yours that you'd been thinking about long before he came along, and it would be a shame to just throw it all away." Look, I cared about the relationship, but I also cared about my growth. And I realized something during that conversation. I wasn't just choosing between a person and a degree. I was choosing between two versions of myself. And this is where the law of attraction becomes real, because the version of me I chose was a version my future would respond to. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was aligning with the identity that could receive the life I wanted. One version stayed comfortable, stayed loved, and stayed safe. The other version chose growth, chose uncertainty, chose expansion. At the time, I had made a commitment to myself to lean into discomfort because I believed that growth lives outside your comfort zone. On the day that applications closed, I applied on a whim. The relationship ended that night, suddenly and completely. Now, this breakup rocked me to my core. Those who were there to witness it would vouch for that. I was absolutely shattered, but I had to believe that this was for the best. Now, after this breakup, I had to sit exams. I had to continue to show up even when I did not feel like it. And this is the part that people don't talk about. Alignment isn't glamorous. It's showing up when you're grieving. It's studying when your heart is broken. It's acting like a future version of you before you feel like her. That's the law of attraction in motion. I had to balance grieving the end of the relationship with focusing on my upcoming exams and studying for them. I had to shift my mindset. I remember coming out of the exams, I was relieved that they were over, but I was hoping I'd done what I needed to do to receive an offer into my degree. And then I received the offer letter. I remember opening it and feeling this rush of excitement. It was like I was hearing him say, "You shouldn't do this," but I did. And in that moment, I understood something. I didn't attract the opportunity because I wished for it. I attracted it because I became the person who would not abandon herself. That's what alignment looks like. But if I'm really honest, it wasn't about attracting something better. It wasn't about expecting better for my life. That was the shift. It wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could back myself. I was scared, of course I was. The unknown is uncomfortable, but staying would have made me smaller. And choosing university felt terrifying, but so expansive. I chose university, and the relationship ended. Now, looking back, I feel grateful that the relationship ended, because in hindsight, we wanted different lives. I always saw myself living in the countryside, and he saw himself living in an apartment in the city where he lived out his dream of becoming a rapper and a music producer. He wanted stability. He wanted something predictable, ordinary, and secure. Whereas I wanted purpose, growth, expansion. If I'd stayed, I would have slowly shrunk myself to fit a future that I didn't feel aligned. And that decision taught me something I will never forget. That was self-trust. That was the first time I truly chose long-term vision over short-term comfort. The first time I chose who I was becoming over who I'd been. And that's when I understood what manifestation really is. Now, once I finished university and I graduated with my social work degree, I really struggled to land a job. I remember asking the universe for a sign that I was on the right path, and rainbows would always appear. Looking back, I realized I wasn't just attracting these signs. I'd aligned my identity with someone who trusts the process. I wasn't chasing reassurance anymore. I was becoming someone who expected things to work out. And when your nervous system expects alignment, you notice alignment. Now, I'd been to a psychic medium a few years prior when another relationship of mine ended, and the message I received was about a job that I would be working in. Now, at the time, I did not believe it because, quite honestly, I went into my social work degree wanting to work in the mental health space, and the sector that this psychic was saying I would work in was the complete opposite to this. I remember coming across the job ad and I was quite curious. I applied for the job and sure enough, I was offered a job interview. Now, when I was driving to this job interview, it'd been raining, and as I was driving, there was this rainbow. It was in that moment I knew I was on the right path, and I did get offered this job. I also applied for a job as a social worker in a casual pool, and funnily enough, I was offered a 7-week contract working in an inpatient mental health unit in a hospital. I accepted this job, which allowed me to gain experience while I was awaiting the start date for the job I'm currently in. Sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you're trying to attract, but something better aligned to what you could have imagined. Now, manifestation isn't about convincing the universe to give you something. It's about becoming someone who can hold it. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If I'd kept my identity of someone who stays comfortable, I would have stayed. But I started shifting into an identity of someone who chooses growth, even when it's uncomfortable. Your goals say, I want this, whereas your identity says, I am this. An identity dictates behavior. Behavior creates results. Now, shifting your identity is powerful, but identity alone isn't enough. You have to lead yourself into it. And that's where self-leadership comes in. Now, self-leadership is the ability to guide yourself towards your future, even when your emotions want comfort. It's choosing the long-term version of you over the short-term feeling. When I chose university, I didn't feel 100% certain. I didn't feel fearless. I felt conflicted, but I led myself anyway. Self-leadership means you stop outsourcing your decisions. You stop waiting for permission. You stop shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. You take responsibility for your direction. It's easy to say you want more, but it's harder to hold yourself to the standard required for more. You don't need a dramatic breakup or a university decision to practice self-leadership. Self-leadership shows up in the small moments. Do you hit snooze or get up? Do you avoid the hard conversation or initiate it? Do you scroll or build? Manifestation without self-leadership is just wishful thinking, because you can visualize the life you want all day, but if you don't lead yourself toward it, nothing changes. Identity sets the direction, self-leadership moves you forward. Now, I have a practical exercise for you. I want you to sit with this. If you have something you say you want, whether it's a relationship, a business, whether it's confidence, financial freedom, I want you to ask yourself, who would I need to be to have this? What does that version of me do daily? What belief does that version hold about themselves? Would that version avoid hard conversations? Would that version settle for less? Would that version wait for permission? And then here's the part that changes everything. Start acting from that identity now. There isn't going to be a perfect time to start this. And if I'm honest, it may feel awkward or unnatural to adopt a new identity. I personally think I feel like an imposter at first, but soon enough, this will shift. Your mindset will shift, your identity will match this, and you'll attract what you truly desire. I remember when I first started out as a social worker and I reached out for support, the concept of imposter syndrome was brought up. Now, if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it is that voice that tells you you're a fraud, even when your results say otherwise. It makes you question your capability even when you've earned your seat at the table. I also want to add that if you want expansion, your nervous system must also feel safe with expansion. Most people say they want more money, more visibility, more success, but internally they fear judgment, pressure, change, loss of control. Manifestation mindset includes I can feel discomfort and still move forward. When I realized I don't want a mundane life, I want purpose, that was a standard shift, and standards are identity in action. This is the bridge between mindset and reality. I studied, I showed up, I completed the bridging course. I didn't just hope, I became someone who does hard things. Manifestation mindset asks, what would the version of me who already has this do today? And then you do that, not perfectly, but consistently. That's embodiment. Manifestation isn't about attracting something outside of you. It's about raising the standards. When your identity shifts, your standards shift. When your standards shift, your behaviors shift. When your behavior shifts, your results shift. And it's about shifting your self-concept. It's about becoming unavailable for anything that doesn't align with the life you're building. A manifestation mindset isn't about convincing the universe to give you something. It's about becoming someone who naturally holds it. Sometimes that means letting go. Sometimes that means being misunderstood. Sometimes that means uncertainty. But every identity-based decision builds self-trust, and self-trust changes everything. Manifestation mindset is essentially this. I no longer identify with limitation, not in an arrogant way, but in a growth way. I was no longer the girl who stayed for comfort. I became the woman who chose purpose. And maybe that's the shift you're being invited into right now. That's manifestation. Manifestation begins the moment you decide you're no longer available for your old identity. So the question isn't, what do you want? The question is, who are you becoming? Thank you so much for spending this time with me today on Becoming with Beck. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to take a screenshot, share it to your stories, and tag me at Becoming with Beck so I can connect with you and cheer you on. This community is built on growth, honesty, and becoming, and I'm so grateful you're here. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, you're not behind, you're not late, you're becoming. I'll see you in the next episode.